विज्ञान की अनकही कहानियाँ। आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनसुनी कहानियाँ।
Hello listeners, you're listening to Vigyan Ki Awaaz podcast program on STEM popularization, catalyzed and supported by the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India and Media for Community Foundation. Project devised and designed by Dr. R. Sridhar and assisted by Ashish Tiwari. Local coordination and production, Professor Subramanian. Content writing by Priyanshu and post-production by Professor Kaushik P. Kanchan of Garden City University, Bengaluru.
Garden City University, conquer we shall all adversity. Together we stand in unity. Together we strive for prosperity. GCU, emphasis on life. GCU, emphasis on life.
In the last episode, Professor Shastri shared his thoughts on where India is currently in the field of glass science and technology, and in this episode he went on to explain how his research is going to help India in the short term and long term.
After I was not a very good student during my PUC days because like a lot of us, there wasn't enough stimulation in what you were hearing in the classroom. But then all of my cousins and family went on a all India trip, which I missed out because that day I was not at home, and those were days when you didn't have cell phones, so nobody could contact me. They had to make a sudden decision to go. So I suddenly was left with nothing to do during the summer break, except I'd made some new friends who were very interested about physics and other things. So that whole summer, every day I met these two friends of mine talking about physics. So there was this one friend, Vinay Kumar Prabhu, who was very passionate and he was very articulate about explaining things. And that sort of month and a half sold me on science. I decided in that time that this is what I wanted to do. So it was a very dramatic moment in my life. And I guess in terms of any general moral, there are two things I can think of. One is you should spend time with people who are excited about something, and it can change your life. And the other is it's also very important, not only with such people, but also yourself, to be able to explain things in a way that go to the heart of the matter. To sort of talk about things, not in terms of details, but to sort of go to the conceptual basis of things. And so to me, certainly, I hadn't heard anybody talk like this. So, if somebody asks you, what is the basic problem that physics tries to address? Right? Nobody had in all the years of schooling and college, nobody had sort of talked to me about, this is how you think about physics. Right? You ask, what are you trying to answer? Right? And so to me, that was very eye-opening. And it made me very interested. So that's one dramatic experience in my career, which made me decide to become a scientist. So I think it's very important to spend time with people who are passionate and who are focused on the conceptual foundations of things. And so I think that's certainly, because a lot of you see this a lot of science popularization, for example. There's a lot of emphasis on, we can do this with science, we can do that with science, which is of course also interesting, right? But it's one dimension. But what is it all about? How do you actually go about understanding things in a way that is reliable? So there's a wonderful book that I think the author's name is Zeman. So it has a very unpretentious title. It says reliable knowledge, because we're all after knowledge. But there's a lot of different kinds of knowledge that comes your way, right? But what science prides itself off is that it's something that you can count on. If we say something, it has been on the basis of a lot of experimentation, a lot of empirical knowledge building, theorizing, conceptualization, so that at the end of the day, when there's a scientific statement about something, it's something that you can build, you can depend on, and you can do things on that basis, right? So how do you do that? Because every day we are faced with things that we don't understand, most of which we will continue not to understand because they're too complex. But there are some things which science addresses where systematically you can do things and understand. And I think communicating that is very important for us as scientists. And also, there's a certain way of going about resolving doubts, resolving disputes, which you can also try and implement or adopt in everyday life, and a scientific approach to things in society, which is also a valuable thing to try and do.
Professor Shastri also shared a breakthrough point in his life which inspired him to fall in love with science and then physics.
So, see, the one thing that disheartens me, right, is that, of course, like students and parents are interested in careers, right? And so every time you're asked about advice, it's career advice, and you say, where is there some, like people use words like what has scope, right? I'm sure you heard this, yes. and of course, like you have to make a living, you have to sort of survive. So it's important to think about this. But once you decide you're going to do something, right? Such as physics or such as engineering or medicine, each of these, it's a world, right? It's a world that is waiting to be explored. So whatever you do, the only advice I would have to students is be interested, be interested, be curious to know, and even if your only goal is to make a lot of money, you cannot do it without having that depth of understanding, right? Maybe it's a depth of understanding about how business works, right? But whatever it is, you have to sort of think about what is it that you're dealing with, how it works, with interest, and that is the road to success in whatever you choose. I don't think I'm not sort of I don't think everybody should do science or everybody should do physics. I think whatever they do, they should do with interest, with the understanding that there is a conceptual world out there, that if you grasp it, whatever you want to do, you can do very well, right? So I think this is something that I find to be a fundamental, somehow, lacuna, where our students think that I can, all I want to be is successful, therefore I don't need to get into the details of the domain in which I will be successful. But that's a fallacy, right? So even, like I said, even if you're interested in making money by running a business, you have to understand the dynamics of that, right? So you do have to pay attention to how things work, right? So that would be my advice. Be interested in whatever it is that you're dealing with.
You were listening to Vigyan Ki Awaaz, a podcast on STEM popularization, catalyzed and supported by National Council for Science and Technology Communication, Government of India. Tune in for more such episodes to Vigyan Ki Awaaz on this platform and also through Spotify, YouTube and Apple Music platforms. Vigyan Ki Awaaz.